What is up, Jabroni JJ back here from Run Pure Bets, talking a little college basketball Saturday. Oof, it's almost March, February 25th. How is everybody? I know that I've been kind of like in and out recently. Some good reasons, some bad reasons, needless to say. We're here now in the present to no S. Big slate in college basketball again, right? And we're actually getting closer and closer to season end. I mean, this for certain teams today will be their last regular season game. Conference tournaments, I think, start up next week for certain conferences. Obviously, the big conferences are another week and a half or so away. But yeah, overall, be honest, college basketball has not treated me right this year. At least not yet. Doesn't mean it can't come full circle. But it's like I always say, like year to year, season to season, every sport, like everybody doesn't make money in every season in every sport, especially if you're somebody who bets multiple sports. Like I said, I try to keep it to two sports at a time, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that you're always going to profit at a high clip. I mean, strategies and whether it's processes or, as I mentioned, strategies, targeting spots, just usually what's worked for me in the sport over the last what I'll call month-ish, just hasn't really worked. So yeah, you kind of make a decision. Well, does that kind of equilibrium out like over time? Like we still have another month and a half ish of this, a little over a month actually. I wouldn't call it a full month and a half, but so needless to say, just kind of pushing forward. As for my dad's video yesterday where he had the split four screen, the guy's allergic to technology, so he was never really going to figure that out, and that's kind of my fault for leaving that in our queue because that was from the golf show. But need to say, and also we're bringing back the goat mug, the mug that keeps the energy flowing, especially when we do the Sunday baseball videos. Also, video tomorrow on DFS channel with Holden. Again, talking college basketball. Maybe I'll even provide some DFS chatter for college basketball. Again, I've been out of those streets all year, so I can't even sit here and tell you like, oh yeah, I've been doing this and that. I haven't been out of the college basketball DFS streets. I'm actually looking forward. There's also going to be a NASCAR show tomorrow with me and Coop. I'm looking forward to getting back into the NASCAR streets because last year was a good year. And this year I'm definitely going to have some outrights, which will be different than previous years because NASCAR I usually just did DFS, but I'm definitely going to do both in NASCAR this year. So looking forward to that. Those shows will start tomorrow. So buckle up. Yeah. So tomorrow there'll be, I think about 11:30, me and Holden talking college basketball. And then at either 12:30 or 1, it'll be the NASCAR show for the big race in the afternoon. So yeah, either way, stay tuned for that. And this schedule moving forward will be relatively the same. 11:30 a.m. Saturdays, 11:30 a.m. Sunday. Give us 30 minutes before the 12 o'clock games, and then NASCAR show Sundays. Obviously, the golf show always Wednesday, and then I'm just going to plug in a show during the week in between on something else, whether it be like a college basketball free pick. Maybe it'll be a live show on Fridays for college basketball, like Fridays around 5 o'clock ish. Could join my dad if he wants to do those together. Yesterday I just had shit I was doing in the evening, so I couldn't join with him. Early evening anyway. But either way, here we are, right? New slate, new us. A few games I like today. It's actually, believe it or not, as big as this slate is, and always the Saturdays in college basketball are always, large slates, right? But actually like a few overs, targetable spots. Unders for me have been brutal this year. I haven't bet a lot of them, but absolutely brutal for me betting unders. It almost feels like, and you guys know this, like for me in college basketball, in regards to totals, it's all about projected pace against what that number is. And you're just more or less looking for, obviously, if you're betting an over, you're looking for a forgiving pace in that regard, right? A pace that can allow teams to maybe average, less than a point per possession, right? But still get you that over. I don't think that's talked enough about, right? Like obviously they talk about it in NFL and college football, point per play, point per possession. In college basketball, point per possession typically medians out around 1-ish. Obviously, your elite or robust offenses, it'll be higher than that, especially in a given game where matchups make sense. It'll be you'll see teams get as high as like 1.3. I mean 1.35 points per possession, which is just massive. But again, when you're betting totals, you're really looking for pace weighed against or projected pace weighed against your points per possession, and you're more or less hoping for that 42 to 45% shooting percentage. Obviously, if you get less than that, the pace isn't going to matter. And then you do it for the exact opposite, right? On unders, it's kind of just the exact opposite in reverse, right? You're kind of projecting pace based on teams that like to crawl at home, playing style matchups, and some paces just are not going to be as forgiving, right? So you're going to need that 47, 48% field goal percentages. Again, we're more or less talking with not as robust teams, right? Because a lot of your power teams, right, your top 25, top 30, top 35 teams typically are much more efficient offensively. So, but again, you're looking for forgiving paces with overs, unforgiving paces with unders. And at the end of the day, if you're betting a small sample of games, anything, of course, can happen. But yes, that's kind of been my struggle. I bet a few overs over the last few weeks. I took a break the last few days, but I mean, I bet a few overs over the last few weeks. And man, it's been kind of brutal. Constant 50% free throw shooting at high volume. And I've lost a few totals literally by less than 5 points. Field goal shooting has been abysmal with overs. Unders, it's been the exact opposite. I'm getting like 54% field goal percentage from teams that are in bottom of D1. But needless to say, again, you just kind of push forward, right? Do you make crazy changes? Do you make crazy adjustments? Or you just kind of stick on the course? As you guys know, we will stick on the course. What's up, Chris? So either way, I'll go into some of these games. I uncorrelated, but I actually kind of like a staggered approach to the games today. I like one game in almost like every time window. So I guess if you're following these games, and I'm going to give you 3 here. But for the Run Pure crew, I have sort of 5 bets that I made. But I'll give you 3 that I like, and they're bigger games too. So obviously these aren't like random games. So you'll definitely get these on TV as well. So we'll just start, right? So TCU Texas Tech, total on this game is 144.5. I really like this game over. So, obviously I always mention things I'm looking for in terms of projected pace at the number. So to me, this should be just south, a few points south of 150, which gives us about a 4.5 point edge at this number. Or almost 4 point edge at this number. Look, Texas Tech and TCU, they do like to move. I mean, TCU moves up and down the floor, upwards of top 40 in the country. The interesting thing with TCU, so I know they're ranked. What are they ranked? 22nd right now. No, 24th. I think they're ranked. I don't see how this TCU team does anything in the Madness tournament. Here's the thing: once you get into the bracket, you need to be able to make 3-pointers, or you need to have some people on your team that can make 3-pointers. This team is one of the worst in D1 at hoisting up threes. And we're not just talking at a mid-major level, all of D1. This team is brutal at shooting threes, and you worry about how much they can stretch the floor. Now, Jamie Dixon, I think has done a great job with this program. I mean, they really turned them around. They used to be like a bottom feeder in the Big 12, and now they're just regularly, I don't say towards the top, but they've been ascending. Look, they rely on tremendous ball movement. They rely on talented bigs. But I just worry about their lack of ability to stretch the floor against really good defensive teams. When the time comes. Now, TCU's good defensively, but to me, this team is making more strides offensively. Because remember, under Chris Beard, this team was like a top 5 defense in the country every year. So as time goes by, they're going to get a little better offensively and a little worse defensively. And their biggest struggle right now is just holding on to the basketball. And against TCU, that's not a great sign because TCU does a lot of pressing and it's going to put a lot of pressure on their guards. But again, TCU, another team with good big men, and should be able to find their way to scoring inside. What I liked about the way these first two matched up, and as I talk about projected pace and whatnot, I thought pace was really good when these two first met. Tech turned the ball over 23 times, which you would expect, right? A team that has issue holding on to the basketball, and a team like TCU that forces a ton of turnovers. But I did feel like despite that, Tech still ended up with 61 points, despite shooting 50% from the line, 23 turnovers, 18 fouls on their end, 0.82 points per possession. Again, not very strong at all. I think a game like this, we get even as much as a little under full points, like 0.95, 0.94 points per possession. Because even like TCU on that other end, in that first game, it was 0.91 from them. And again, the extra turnovers added to a ton of extra possessions for them. And they run. So overall, I like the spot here. I think this number is a few short based on the matchup, based on injected pace from that TCU is going to give Tech. And Tech doesn't play slow to begin with. So I do really like this number. That's TCU Tech over. I'm getting confused with the other game. 144.5. You could split that up first half game if you want. Totally up to you. But yeah, either way, that's kind of where I stand. I have a question. Would you take Virginia +3? So I'll be honest, like the ACC, Don, I know my dad's a big Virginia guy. I haven't dove much into the ACC this year. I've bet a few games here, a few games there. Nothing crazy. I know like Pitt's been a huge overachiever in that conference. And it's just, look, it's been a weaker conference, right? I mean, overall, you just see who they're playing. So UNC. So the only good piece there is Virginia is usually like owns North Carolina. But needless to say, it's been a watered down ACC, right? So to me, look, I'm seeing now 4.5. I'm not sure if there's any injury news on Virginia. That number seems a bit large. If I'm being honest, let me just see what KenPom has it. I mean, KenPom has a game too. Is somebody out for Virginia? Like somebody might be out for Virginia, or somebody might be coming back from North Carolina. I don't know, but either way, to me, it is a lot of respect to North Carolina, especially Virginia coming off a woeful game against BC. So, yeah, I mean, take it for what it's worth. Call it a lean Virginia, but again, I don't. There might be news that I'm not privy to because 4.5 seems like a big number for that spot. Dropped UNC on a live show, and the line took off. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't. Again, it's tough to tell. Fully healthy, the line does seem a little big, but again, it's tough to say because I just haven't been. It hasn't been a conference I've been like following at a superb level this year. So, call it a slight lean Virginia at the new number 4.5, but definitely no conviction there. All right, so next game up. Hold on. So we talked on Tech. So next one is Kansas State, Oklahoma State. So I bet this game. I bet this game over 143.5. And I'll be honest, like the reasoning and justification is the same for the previous game I just gave you. These two met, 7 weeks ago, whatever it was, 65-57 total. Game would have seemed like it slugged, but it really did not. There was actually a ton of possessions in this game. Oklahoma State, 0.8 points per possession. Barely got to the free throw line. They turned the ball over a bit, but I mean, 16 is a big number. I wouldn't consider it a huge number. But they just shot terrible. I mean, 38% from 2, 22% from 3. Shots were getting up, just weren't getting there. I mean, you want to talk about a pace of a game that blazed. Both teams got up over 60 shots. K-State got to the line 19 times with that included. Again, just a tremendous amount of possessions. That's why you look at a game like this and yeah, the score is 65-57, but you got two teams that had less than, just like the other game, but less than 0.92 per possession. I think here it's another spot where you're getting a very forgiving line that I believe again should be just south of 150. So I do like this game more than the previous one. Especially since you get the one number cheaper here versus the Tech game. But yeah, to me, it's just as valuable. I think, again, another game where we're going to have forgiving pace. Yeah, look, game ends out and both teams shoot 37%. Yeah, this game ain't going to get there. But I do think if we get 45% from both teams, I think this slides over pretty easily, especially if we get a little extra help at the free throw line. So, yeah, just another game where two teams that like to run up and down the floor going head to head. And also, Kansas State is coming off a few impressive wins at home. Oklahoma State coming off a few bad losses. I do like at least Oklahoma State to get their offense going today, or at least be more efficient because they are a much better offense than they've shown. Now, granted, OK State plays great defense too, but again, they are better offensively than I think they've been showing over the last 3 games against very tough competition. And Kansas State, again, has played pretty well defensively. But another team that's still very efficient offensively. I mean, this is one of the best assist to field goal ratio teams in D1. So either way, expect a fast pace. I expect both teams to figure out ways to get the ball in the net. The certain free throw advantages too in this one. Oklahoma State should live at the free throw line, and the entire team shoots over 70% from the line. So I would expect freebies there. And on the Kansas State end, they just force a tremendous amount of turnovers against a team in Oklahoma State that can't hold on to the basketball. So, again, there's a lot of similarities between this game and the previous game. That's why that kind of got attracted to both today. And I do like both to go over. So that's kind of where I'm at. All right. Last but not least, Indiana Purdue. Under Woodson, I've really liked this Indiana squad for some years now, and Jackson Davis is just an absolute stud. If you guys remember last year, like I was riding this team pretty heavy into the tournament, and they did okay. It seemed like they tired out in the tournament because they had played a lot of games in a short period of time just to make it. Um, but I do like them. I think they're well coached. They have your typical stud that you need. They do where Indiana lacks is really in 3-point shooting. I think they're okay, like as a group, but they really don't shoot a lot of threes. So like if you look at their numbers, like you'll be like, oh wow, well efficiently speaking, like they shoot whatever it is, 38, 39% as a group, which is good, but they just don't shoot a lot of threes. So again, inability to stretch the floor in that regard does give them issues because it allows more of a double team to Jackson Davis, but he is just super talented. A bit of a question mark with his size, with how he'll relate at the NBA level, because he's in that like weird hybrid state where any those guys that are like anywhere between like 6'8", 6'10", it's always interesting, right? Because you're kind of big enough to be a center, but are you skilled enough to be a power forward? And you're definitely not skilled enough jump shooting wise to be a small forward. So as a power forward center, he'd probably get bodied up in the NBA. But as a small forward, he'd probably have to work on more of his mid range game. But around the net, like he is super good. And he gave Purdue fits the last time. I mean, I don't think it was an anomaly that Indiana shot so well from the field between him and I forgot the other guy that played really well in that game. It was just a really good offensive performance. And Purdue is just look. I feel like Purdue has had so many good teams over the years under Painter, and he is just got. Like I couldn't like if I was a Purdue alum, alma mater, whatever, just a random Purdue fan, like this team would infuriate me every year because you want to talk about talent pound for pound. This team every year is as talented as any because they always have a good big man. They always have great snipers around them. The concept is really simple, yet for whatever reason, this team just consistently blows big games. I don't even like the one year they had against Virginia. I think that was them, right? Where the one kid that was like raining threes from half court all game long. He's in the NBA now. But either way, it's like every year, like they lose for some strange reason to some team they shouldn't. And it would just infuriate me as a fan. But either way, Purdue is one of those teams for me, almost like Gonzaga, where, prove to me you'll get there before I'll actually crown anything on you. Purdue gets accolades every year and they just consistently do nothing. Either way, Indiana, I think, is a really tough matchup for them. It's a big number. Doesn't surprise me in the least that Indiana gave them a hard time just a few short weeks ago because Indiana matches up really well here. They match up well with the big men. They're long defensively, so they can kind of stop some of that ball movement. Now, sure, a lot of things in this game really go towards Zach Edey, right? So if Jackson Davis was to get in foul trouble helping out or playing defense on him or whatever, it's a problem. But, I wouldn't say Purdue lives and dies with Edey, but he's the center point of their offense because they do so many dumps to him and kickouts for three. And when this team's not making their threes, it does cause them some problems. I wouldn't consider them an efficient 3-point shooting team by any means. I mean, they're definitely outside, what I'll call the top 30. I mean, they're outside the top 50% at minimum. So, but again, they do a lot of work. Edey protects them a lot around the rim. So Edey basically has to stay in. But to me, in regards to Indiana, whether he's in or not, I don't necessarily think it matters that much. Jackson Davis just crushed in that matchup the first go around. I wouldn't expect any different. Even if they double team him, it's gonna have open opportunities for Indiana. And again, like I think the easiest way here for Indiana to even win this game outright is really to just when you have your open threes, take them. I mean, I know they only took 10 the first time these two met, and they don't take a lot to begin with. But if they're going to attempt to double team Jackson Davis in any way, I don't think it would be with Edey per se. But if they try to double team in any way, it's like just let your guys that actually shoot threes well shoot them. I mean, don't be shy. So we'll see what happens. Hood Schifino played really well the last time out, and he's been playing well. So obviously, I just think overall this game figures to play close. Indiana should be able to hang around. Obviously, if this becomes a free throw contest late, Purdue's really good at that, making free throws. So hopefully this game isn't sitting at 6 with a minute left. But needless to say, I do think this game plays competitive, and I think Indiana is better than folks think. I know that they were ranked high for a bit. I don't necessarily think they deserved it when they were, they're probably ranked about where they should be now. But this is going to be a tough out in the tournament. Like to me, I value a team like Indiana more than a team like Purdue, just because Indiana's. I like Woodson. I like the fact that they build their offense around Jackson Davis. They have guys that can hit threes when they need to. So overall, I just think Indiana's a better team. I know that Purdue has upside. Just to me, Purdue seems to always shit their pants in big games. So, yeah, like Indiana here, catching 6.5. So that was my third and last bet from here. Carson Edwards, you got it, John. So hold on. So that's Indiana plus 6.5. So 10 versus Purdue. What's up, J-Ro? What's up, Robert? And John A with the clutch Carson Edwards. I would have never thought of his name, by the way, but you're 100% right. That was him. Wake and bake. What's up, DJen? Robert, what's up, girl? Yep. Fair enough. Yeah, I guess not. I mean, I know they run that show usually at. Is it in this time? Am I running? Well, no, that would be on the DFS channel anyway. So it might not be. I know they usually run it though, but yeah, I guess not today. Losing Johnson hurt IU. Oh yeah, I mean, definitely lost upside there, John, for sure. I think they've rounded out relatively okay since, but yeah, I mean, with him, with them, they would have been, to me, completely natty title bound, or at least potential for it, especially with a bunch of weak conferences this year overall. And even like a team like Gonzaga, they're not having the year they usually do. So yeah, so basically those are the three bets for today. Happy to take a question or two from you guys if you'd like. We could talk on some personal stuff. Look at this as like a therapy session if you want. No qualms from me. But other than that, what's everybody doing today? Hopefully people have some busy plans. I have a few things I have to do in the afternoon. Such is life. But let me just see. Maybe I'll talk on one or more key games before I pop out. I actually can't even believe, like, as I look through like KenPom's rankings, that like KenPom's got Gonzaga ranked 13th. Like, it's like the worst Gonzaga team we've seen in a few years. And the Gonzaga teams that have done really well or have had studs all over them, weren't losing games like this team. Like, I know they've lost close games, right? Like the 1-point game to Marymount and the overtime game. I think it was to St. Mary's who they played today, I think. I just find it funny. Like, to me, I figured they would be potentially a bit underrated this year because I think people were going to ride them off. But again, people are right back on them. Drew Timme feels like he's been in college for 12 years. Super talented around the rim offensively. Defensively, again, he's 6'10". He's thin. Definitely not a muscular build, so he's going to get pushed around at the NBA level unless he either puts on more muscle or unless he's going to be a 6'10" small forward, which is strange because I don't think he can play. I don't think he's going to be quick enough to guard the smaller small forwards. So either way, Timmy's in a weird spot. I do like him though. I love the mustache shit. But either way, I thought this show was XFL. I'll tell you, like, that sport is so weird with the rules. Like, I don't even know like how you can look. The sport's still new, right? Like for me, I'll relate it to the KBO. When a few of us tried to start betting that sport early on, and the KBO is like quad A baseball because you have actually decent talent with their bats and starting pitching in the KBO. But the bullpens are like abysmal. So like games just get completely hosed when pens come in. But in relation to XFL, there's so many strange rules. I get it. It makes the game more entertaining and people want football all year long. So I get it. But it's like anything else, right? Like the sport is built upon good quarterback play. If you don't have good quarterbacks, like the sport will have a few weeks of what you'll consider to be, gambling fun, I guess, bliss in certain ways. But long term, like you're just not going to enjoy the sport if good quarterback play. And look, let's be honest, in the NFL, there's like 30% good quarterbacks, right? So, the XFL, guys like Paxton Lynch, the one kid I think that played at Arizona is in there, the Tua or whatever, the Toa. But yeah, I mean, look, familiar name, especially if you followed college a lot. But I just think I get it. It's Saturday football. People like football, but you're right, Robert. Like Drew Timme is just a good college basketball forward. Like unless he puts on a lot of muscle or loses a little weight and still puts on muscle, because the dudes in the NBA that are playing small forward, the 6'6", 6'7", 6'8" dudes, like they're quick. They're quick. They're in great shape. They can hit jumpers. and they're long. It feels like Timmy's going to be in a bit of a shit show. No tennis for me today, Aaron. I'm going to pick up tennis on Monday with a new tournament starting up. So I guess you could look forward to that. Pepperdine over his thought against Loyola. So Pepperdine like blazes, don't they? Faster paced teams, country. Just look quick. Yeah, I mean Pepperdine's like. I mean they're like I don't know. I mean I don't watch a ton of them because most of the games are end up like 10 o'clock at night, but Eastern time, 10 o'clock at night. But they're a fun team to watch. Literally just absolute blaze up and down the floor. So I can't mind that over that you like. Obviously, it's a bigger number, but can't mind that by any means because it wouldn't surprise. They just speed up every team they play. Lean Florida there, Robert, at 14.5. It is a big number, though, for an ACC game, but I do lean there. Iowa going to run MSU. Yeah, I hope you're right, John. But again, there's just been a lot of parity this year. I don't like even like years where I mentioned, like even years where I'll say, yeah, there's a lot of parity this year in college basketball. Like usually you still have your like 3 or 4 creme de la creme teams. She has been really all over the place for sure. No spring training baseball leans. I might do that in the coming days once lineups get to be a little more predictable. I do think spring training though, you should bet them based on how you predict lineups that come out. If you're betting them after and you realize your guys are in the lineup and then you bet it, like do realize you're likely already betting it after steam has hit it. So just keep that in mind. Like a lot of people that bet spring training baseball are just like chasing steam because like lineups come out, lines move, and then people bet them. And like you can't even really watch the games either. You like have to like get them on GameCast. At least that's how it was last year and the years before. So yeah, either way. Somebody asked this question about Baylor, I think, right? Somewhere in here. Baylor's another one, right? It's like you would figure this would have been a year. Baylor could have been like top notch, but like just when they start cruising, bang, they drop 2 straight. Flagler's been out a few games, hasn't he? I think. And the other kid transferred. The other tall white kid transferred to some other school. I forgot. I think he's in a. I actually think he's in a. I think he's in the Big Ten somewhere. Either way, I can't think of his name. Long-haired, 3-point shooter. He was on the team the last few years. So in regards to the Texas matchup today, I mean, look, 2 really good schools. They've had great seasons. Chris Beard's really turned this Texas team into a great defense. And look, they were good offensively kind of before he got there. So, this is your typical spot where it makes sense to tag Baylor. But I'll tell you, like these spots in general this season have not been profitable. They've been the exact opposite for me. Targeting these teams off of a few bad losses, going up against a team with a few overachieving wins. This is usually a money spot, right? But it has not been this year in particular, and I'm not just going to keep chasing that type of regression. I think matchup-wise, these two match up really well. First game was played really close also. It makes a lot of sense that Baylor handles business today, coming back home off a few bad road losses. And Texas travels on the road after 2 big home wins. Again, I can't express this enough. Like this spot is just your typical. You just bet Baylor, a team like Baylor, in a spot like this, lay the 2, and or grab the 2, whatever it is. I think it's light. I think the line's +2, right? Baylor minus. Either way, I think it's -2. But you lay the 2 in a spot like this, and it just cashes at 60% every year. But this year, that has not been the case. Meyer, yeah. Look at John. John's on top of his shit today. Great work. MVP of the show is John. Whiskey John. So yeah, unranked home favorites, fantasy ranked teams has been money. The only problem, like Andrew, I like that mantra or mindset. The problem is like the ranking system. Like I'd argue in any given week, there's multiple teams that should be ranked that aren't, and multiple teams that are ranked that shouldn't be. And multiple teams that are unranked that should be even worse than like where they're showing up in AP polls. So yeah, overall, want nothing to do with the spot. Years past, it was a typical just lay the 2 with Baylor type spot. But Richie, you like Texas Tech today too. I'm just done with betting these spots this season. It has not been as predictable as it's been in years past. Especially at smaller numbers too. All right, boys. So it's been 30 minutes. Games are about to tip if they already haven't started tipping. I wish you guys nothing but the best today. I'll be back tomorrow with Holden, running through some games as well. And then again, the NASCAR show after that. So you'll see me twice tomorrow. If you'd like to see me twice, or you'll see me once, or maybe you'll see me 0 fucking times tomorrow if you're busy or if you don't care. Cue the tiny violin. With all that said, I hope you all gamble responsibly, stay safe, and yes, run pure. I'll see you guys tomorrow talking the same type of shit. Good luck today, everybody.